Show at Duxford. To celebrate that, IWM has launched a dedicated range of Airshow 50s products, which include homeware, clothing, accessories, and prints, including a special edition Airshow Anniversary Gold coin. You can also pick a copy of 50 years of Duxford Airshows, an illustrated bookazine, an official history of Duxford Airshows, featuring never-before-seen photographs and archive materials, alongside first-hand stories from the partners and individuals who returned. Popular flight to Duxford. This, of course, was a derelict airfield, closed in RAF service in 1961, and for many years it was falling into dilapidation. And when you think about what we have here today, it's quite remarkable that we managed to secure the long-term site as Duxford as a museum, bearing in mind all of the historic events that have occurred here over the years. That's Airshows 50 years of Duxford Airshows, and you can pick up a copy from the museum shop.
interest, haven't you? Because you've flown the Vampire quite a lot. You've flown the Lockheed T-33, which of course is a derivative of the P-80, one of the very first operational jets of all. You spent a lot of time on the F-16 Fighting Falcon. You're now flying the F-35A Lightning II. How would you characterize?
You don't spend a lot of thoughts on how to fly it, because the aircraft will do pretty much what you're asking it to do, and you can put your brain onto using it as a weapon platform. Bells and whistles and almost steam coming out of it, where you have to turn levers, and it's really, you have to fly the aircraft. You really have to fly the first generation aircraft, but once you get them up to speed, it's a beautifully harmonized aircraft on the controls, and they just perform very well considering the age of the aircraft.
Of course, one of the big things that modern fighter designers have attempted to do is to improve life for the pilot in terms of situational awareness in the battle space, isn't it? How does that compare with the earlier jets? I mean, could you imagine having taken them to war? It comes from number 30 Squadron, stationed at the RAF's main air mobility hub at Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire. It's flying around several locations today in honour of Armed Forces Day, which is marked today at events around the country. And it's only the second time that we've seen one of these very impressive aeroplanes at a Duxford Air Show. The last time was at our big RAF 100 show in September 2018. This is a very adaptable aircraft, very much at home in both the strategic and the tactical environments. Known as the Airbus A400M, of course, by its manufacturer, but named Atlas by the RAF. And there are 3 squadrons of them at Bryce Norton. Numbers 30 and 70 squadrons use the Atlas for global missions. Number 24 squadron trains the crews, and full operational capability in the tactical role is due now that the Atlas fleet is complete, because the 22nd example was delivered from the factory in Seville on the 22nd of May this year, which completes the development, delivery and production phase of the Atlas program for the RAF. And they've been very heavily involved in multinational operations in recent years. Look to your left, and here comes the Airbus Atlas C1. Set a new record by dropping a 23-ton load by parachute over Salisbury Plain, which was the heaviest load ever airdropped by a UK military aircraft. The first really large-scale operation for the Atlas fleet was in August 2021, the Afghanistan evacuation, which involved 4 of these aircraft, as well as 3 of the C-130J Hercules, which are now being retired, 5 Airbus Voyager tanker transports, and 7 C-17 Globemaster 3s. More than 15,000 people were airlifted out by the RAF, of which at least 4,500 were British nationals. And a very nice plan view of the aircraft as it turns in front of us and heads back in towards the airfield. We were expecting only a single pass, but it appears we're getting slightly more. Atlas is permanently deployed to the Middle East in support of British forces out there. Closer to home, they've supported the UK Border Force with maritime reconnaissance, long-range search and rescue and overwatch capabilities. Another of them is based out in the Falkland Islands, providing maritime reconnaissance, search and rescue and medical evacuation facilities, and it's able to airdrop supplies in Antarctica using the air-to-air refueling capability. And that mission was first performed from a Voyager, using that as the tanker platform in a trial in October 2021. So that was the number 30 Squadron Atlas C1, an aircraft in
Three-course meal.
Drive one of the planes. Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Actually, up in the air. Yeah, bits. Yeah.
I think it might.
There's one that's been flying around loads.
Effie. Oh, it's a dolphin.
Well, now is a good time to secure your spot to enjoy the air show, which will be starting very shortly, and your lead commentator, of course, is my big buddy, Ben Donnell.
Thank you very much to Colin Welsh, who will of course be with me throughout the rest of what promises to be an absolutely tremendous flying programme at Duxford. We've got the debut public display of one of the most significant restorations to emerge on the UK historic aircraft preservation scene for a good many years in the form of Fighter Aviation Engineering's Lockheed 12A. We have got some unique formations of historic aircraft. We've got plenty of Duxford favourites. We've got the quite astonishing jet pits from Rich Goodwin air shows, and we've got some flypasts to close the show from the Royal Air Force aerobatic team, the Red Arrows. It's going to be an absolutely tremendous programme. Let me run through it once more for you in case you missed that earlier on. We start very shortly with the two aircraft that have taken up their positions down at the far left-hand end of the airfield, the eastern end, just undertaking power checks at the moment prior to getting airborne to form up, they being the B-17G Flying Fortress Sally B and the P-47D Thunderbolt Nellie B. A beautiful duo of US 8th Army Air Force warbirds. Then we have Team Raven with the 6 Vans RV-8s. They're followed by the naval formation from the fighter collection with the Grumman Wildcat and Bearcat and the Goodyear Corsair. Then the aircraft I was just talking about, the Lockheed 12A Electra Junior, flying in a photographic reconnaissance pair with the aircraft restoration company's Spitfire PR-11. Then the aerial antics of the Great War display team with their 7 First World War replica aeroplanes. Our rotary contribution for the day from the Project Lynx team with the Westland Lynx and Gazelle. Some jet action then from the de Havilland Vampire of the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron and the 2 BAC Strike Masters of North Wales Military Aviation Services. A unique trainer combine then, training aircraft through the ages, Avro Tutor, Miles Magister, de Havilland Tiger Moth, de Havilland Chipmunk, Scottish Aviation Bulldog, Slingsby Firefly and the Pipistrel Velis Electro. And then some classic Duxford Warbird action, a trio of Spitfires, 2 Mark 5s and a Mark 8 with the Hurricane 1 from Hurricane Heritage. After that, at just about 3, it's time for the Rich Goodwin Air Show's jet pits. After that we have the Mercury formation, 2 Bristol Mercury engined aircraft, the Bristol Blenheim from the Aircraft Restoration Company, the Gloucester Gladiator returning to the circuit this year from the fighter collection. A beautiful pair of 1930s Beech D-17 Staggerwing biplanes to follow that up, and then a trio of Hawker Hurricanes. Beautiful formation and solo action then from the graceful Stomp SV4 biplanes of the Stomp formation display team. And then as we come through towards the end of the show, the Aero Supermatics Wingwalkers with the 2 Boeing Stearman Cadets will be entertaining us. Complete with the girls on the wings, a pair of Korean war fighters as our final full display of the day, the Hawker Fury and the North American P-51D Mustang. And then to finish things off, a flypast or flypasts, we're not quite sure at this stage how many, but nonetheless a welcome visit in advance of their full display tomorrow by the Royal Air Force aerobatic team, the Red Arrows, with their 8 Hawks, and that takes us through until about 5:15, after which, as Colin was explaining to you earlier, we will of course be continuing the ground activities for a good while longer until the site closes this evening, but I'll remind you about that. And one other quick reminder, while it is still rather cloudy out there, the temperatures are going to be rising over the course of the rest of the afternoon, so we do ask you please. And there, what a wonderful sight after the events of the past few weeks. because there was a time when we thought this aircraft might possibly not be able to fly for us this weekend, but the magnificent work of B-17 Relations engineers, the Civil Aviation Authority here and the US Federal Aviation Administration has allowed Boeing B-17G Flying Fortress Sally B to go back into the air, which it did yesterday, just in time to practice and work up for today's display. So there goes the B-17, its escort fighter, the Republic P-47D Thunderbolt, following it off the runway.
Thanks, Ben. We don't normally do this kind of thing, but I've been handed this very nice note from Suzanne, and she says, I've organised a very special experience for my husband's 70th celebration in celebrating the posh seats. So enjoy your day here at Duxford. Very happy 70th birthday. Best wishes from not only Suzanne, of course, but
for the first time in 2023. It was a close-run thing as to whether it could happen, but thanks, as I say, to the wonderful efforts of a whole host of people and organisations, here we are, Sally B back where it belongs, and running in to start its solo display. And isn't it in very, very fine fettle indeed, thanks to the work done by the not by Boeing, but by the Lockheed Vega plant at Burbank, California. After its service with the US Army Air Forces and Air Force, it went on to be operated for many years by France's Institut Géographique National, the IGN, as a survey and mapping platform. That was until it was brought to the UK in 1975, and this final solo pass with smoke on is always dedicated to the members of the Sally B Supporters Club, whose funds have kept this aircraft flying. In their hundreds at the airfields used by the bombardment groups of the US 8th Air Force across East Anglia. This is now the only airworthy flying fortress in Europe, and as things stand, it's one of only 2 B-17s currently flying in the world. The other is in the United States. And perhaps given its familiarity, it's almost an aeroplane that we take for granted on the display circuit, but I think you'll agree that the recent events have reminded us that that is not so. These sorts of issues can come along, so therefore your funding support is all the more crucial. When the aircraft lands and is parked up, it'll do so next to the Sally B merchandising stand. You can see 2 flags saying B-17 Sally B flying from their stand down there. They would be delighted to sign you up for the Supporters Club, or indeed to sell some of their merchandise. And there's arguably never been a better time to support Sally B than in the wake of its recent, thankfully, close-up look at a B-17. You can do so in the American Air Museum building up towards the western end of the airfield, the very distinctive one with the curved roof, where you can also see an example of the other main US Army Air Forces heavy bomber type of the Second World War, the consolidated B-24 Liberator, and compare and contrast the 2 4-engine heavy designs, both of which were extensively and very successfully used also by Royal Air Force Coastal Command in particular during the war years.
No, Effie, give that back to Albert now, please.
Sally B being flown today by Captain Andrew Dixon, and as co-pilot, the aircraft's chief engineer, Darryl Taplin. And as I say, he and his colleagues really are deserving of all our thanks for the work they've put into getting this aircraft back into the skies. And I think as Sally B taxis past, we'd all appreciate you showing your appreciation for them, for Ellie Sallingbow and everyone else who has ensured that the sight we just saw was made possible again. But now diving in from the left, the Republic P-47D Thunderbolt. One of the biggest and heaviest of all single-engined, single-seat fighters of the war years, the Thunderbolt, but one possessed of absolutely outstanding performance both in the air-to-air and the air-to-ground roles. Particularly long-ranged, nor that effective at low level, but with the arrival of the P-47D model like this, the design's real potential came to the fore. It was given longer range with greater fuel capacity, better cooling, various other system refinements. The addition of a turbo supercharging system in the Pratt & Whitney double wasp engine and the bubble canopy as opposed to the high-backed razorback configuration on earlier P-47s also helped make this into the truly great warplane it became. In excess of 3,750 aerial kills falling to P-47s in all theatres of World War II. Continued even after the longer-legged P-51 Mustang came into service because of the type's effectiveness on air-to-ground missions. And in the period surrounding the Allied landings for takeoff, 6 Vans RV-8s, and they'll be making up our next display item, and while they position, we're going to be bringing the 2 Strike Masters from North Wales Military Aviation Services back in after a commitment elsewhere. They're part of our display a little later. We're here early. We'll see them in part. That's just to the left of our position here. In front of the control tower, Sally B is pushed back to the parking slot next to B-17 preservation stand. And the naval fighters from the fighter collection, the Wildcat, the Corsair and the Bearcat also taxiing out. It's a very, very busy flying program today with takeoffs to the hold, and they fly a home-built aircraft. It's 6 examples of the Vans RV-8. Together they make Team Raven for 2023. Running in Delta formation and pulling up for the Delta Loop. And doing so on what we refer to in display terms as the A-axis. Most venues will have 2 display axes. The A-axis is the one parallel here to the main runway. The B-axis is at right angles to that. And the team staying in Delta formation and coming back round for an underside pass. Leading the team as Raven 1 is Simon Shirley, who's in his 10th season as a display pilot, and he comes from an RAF flying background. He has around 5,500 flying hours in his logbooks. He flew multiple tours on the Tornado F3 air defence fighter, including operationally over the Balkans in the mid-1990s, and he's been a qualified flying instructor on the Hawk, the Grob Tutor in both the University Air Squadron and elementary flying training roles, and on the current Grob G120TP prefect. And at the moment, he's a full-time reservist, qualified flying instructor and air experienced flight commander on the Universities of Wales Air Squadron at St Athan, once again flying the Tutor. as for the aircraft that they're flying, it really is a truly outstanding machine, the Vans RV8. One of a whole family of for pull-ups with quarter vertical rolls. And they're completing here manoeuvres known as quarter clovers, describing the outline of a quarter of a clover leaf in the sky. But rather than heading back out on the B-axis, they do so on the 45-degree line. Meanwhile, we're looking out for Ravens 1 to 4. Returning to us from the right, they have now transitioned into box formation and they're pulling up for a barrel roll. Describing the inside of a barrel lying on its side. And as they do so, we're going to get the 3 Navy fighters into the air underneath them, led off by the Wildcat, using the grass. To be followed off by the Corsair